y'all doing? I know what you're thinking. Sucks to be the dude that's got to come after that, right? Drew the short straw backstage, you know? But in all honesty, and all kidding aside, I don't think there's a better place in the program for me to be here and share my story with y'all. You know, I think we just saw a profound embodiment of a human difference that was empowered and enabled. And as a result of the support from friends and family, from the community, the opportunity provided her, she has a gift that she can give and share with the world, a gift that, without a question, deserves one more big round of applause. Can y'all do that? Yeah. But I think many of y'all know that that ain't always the case. That there are many forms of human difference that isn't enabled or empowered, but is disempowered and disabled. I know that experience firsthand. You know, I didn't learn to read until I was 12 years old. Couldn't read until I was 12. I grew up with every label you could imagine. I was the bad kid, I was the stupid kid, and eventually I became the special ed kid. I was diagnosed with a whole bunch of different language-based learning disabilities, as well as attention deficit disorders. And as a result of that, I struggled. You know, I was the kid that spent most of the day chilling out with the janitor in the hallway, right? I was the kid who spent a lot of the day on a first-name basis with Shirley, the receptionist, in the principal's office, you know? And I was also the kid that spent much of the day hiding in the bathroom to escape reading out loud with tears streaming down my face. And I didn't hear a lot about how my difference was a good thing. I heard a lot about how my difference was a deficiency. And that was fundamentally wrong. My neurodiversities shouldn't have been pathologized because they are differences in the truest sense of that term. Let's take this thing we call ADD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That sounds like a sucky thing now, doesn't it? But you know what? It doesn't have to be. There are good things about that. There are bad things about it. I'm not naive about the bad things that come with having this brain. You know, I struggle with executive functioning. I struggle with time management. I have the attention span of a gnat, okay? Don't let me do your taxes, all right? It ain't a good use of my cognitive skill sets, you know? But you know what goes hand in hand with some of those bad things? A whole bunch of good things. A lot of research shows that folks with ADD are more entrepreneurial and better problem solvers than the general population. Just came across a research study that showed that EMTs, emergency medical professionals, firemen and women, paramedics with ADD are better at their job than so-called normal EMTs. That makes sense. Your house is on fire, you want that dude to have ADD, right? Forget paying attention, come get my stuff, you know? A difference that's disabled by the way it's treated. ADD wasn't my disability. My disability was the desk and the chair. I had a hard time sitting still, right? I was the kid, 5 seconds in the class, the foot starts bouncing. 10 seconds in the class, both feet start bouncing. 15 seconds in the class, I'm going to bust out those drums, right? 15 minutes in the class, it's all over. I'm the kid trying to take his leg and put it behind his neck, right? And I was shamed for that. You know, I'll never forget, I had this teacher in second grade named Mrs. C. I've had many, many gifted, brilliant teachers who I will celebrate with you today. Mrs. C is not one of those, all right? My foot would be bouncing, she would stop class, she would point at me, all the kids would look at me, and she would say at the top of her lungs, Jonathan, what is your problem, right? ADD wasn't my problem. My problem was the desk. My problem was the passive learning environment. My problem was the shame, the toxic stress, the social stigma, difference, disabled. The same is true with my so-called learning disabilities, right? You know, dyslexia got good things and bad things about it. But if I know anything, I did not overcome dyslexia. If I overcame anything, it was dysteachia. right? That's what I overcame, you know. I overcame being put in the stupid group and being made to feel stupid. Don't know if y'all remember the stupid group from your school. Ask the question differently. Who remembers the reading groups from their childhood, right? Let me ask y'all a question about those reading groups. Ever hard to tell which reading group was the smart group and which was the dumb group? Not hard to tell, right? You got the blackbirds over here. You got the bluebirds over here. And then over in the annexed trailer building, right? You got the sparrows, you know? Come on now, it ain't hard to tell. Let me put it this way. When I was growing up, everybody knew that my group was the stupid group because my group was a bird that did not fly, okay? It was an ostrich and it ran quickly, you know? It wasn't dyslexia that held me back. It was the self-concept of being stupid. It was the teasing on the playground. It was the tracking and the Matthew syndrome and the low expectations. It was difference disabled by the way it was treated. That's the bad news. But guess what? There's good news. Doesn't have to be that way. We can enable these differences. That's what happened in my life. My differences were enabled by folks who built a relationship with me, connected with me, and supported me. Had this teacher named Mr. R. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that guy. Every day, Jonathan, how are you? Cared about me as a human being. When I struggled with reading, would sit next to me, put his arm around me, the power of human touch and connection. I had folks in my life who supported me, made it through college because of my girlfriend. My wife now, mother of my 3 kids, would read books to me. Went off to be a writer because of her. I spell at a 3rd grade level, write books. How do I do that? Well, guess what? I married my spell checker, right? It's called strategic mating, and if you haven't tried it, you should try it. I was enabled because I had folks who were in my corner, people who advocated for me. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mom, right? Colleen Mooney, 5 foot tall, Irish bulldog, high-pitched, squeaky voice like Mickey Mouse. She curses like a truck driver. And if you were a teacher or a principal, you did not want cursing Mickey Mouse in your office, right? But that's where she was, right? Fighting for my rights, for an inclusive education, advocating for me, empowering my voice, and ultimately fighting for an education system that doesn't just work for some kids, but one that works for all kids. Difference enabled, right? And I'm here today because I had folks in my life who saw my capacities, my skills, my talents, when other people just saw deficits. People who could look past that deficit model and see strength and gifts where other people saw pathology. You know, I'm here today because of a guy named Father Young. Met him at my first university before I went to Brown, right here in LA, Loyola Marymount University. Went there on soccer scholarship. Thought all I could be was an athlete, the dumb, stupid jock, right? First day on campus, coach makes us go around to the different departments to listen to the presentations and decide our major. I'll be frank with you, I didn't listen to any of them. I sat in the back row, pulled my hat down. I was there to major in athletics, and that was it. Then we got to the English department. Chair of the department, Shakespeare scholar, Jesuit priest, Father Young was up there talking about learning and literature and education like his head was on fire. He inspired me. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, hey man, I think I might want to be an English major here at LMU. But I don't know if I can do it because I'm dyslexic, I have learning disabilities. And Father Young looked right at me and he said, son, you're using that as an excuse. Some of my best students have been people who learn outside the lines. Nobody may have told you this before, but you have strengths and talents that can serve you well in your life. Believed in me, saw my best self before I did, and that was transformative. So I walked out of that guy's office, and that day I went to the other side of campus. I went to the dean of academic enrollment. I sat across from him, and I said, hey, I'm going to study me some English literature here at LMU. It's game time. Let's do this. And that guy, he pulled out my file. And if you all know the file, If you're a kid like me, you grew up in special education, you have an individualized education plan, IEP. Got to be honest about that thing. NSA, KGB got nothing on the IEP, right? It's this thick. It lands on the desk with a thud. Guy flips through it. Halfway through, he laughs. And he says, literature, you can't read, you can't write, you shouldn't even be in college. So I was deflated like a balloon. The kid in the hallway again left his office, went right back to Father Young out of respect for him, and said, hey man, don't worry about that piece of paper I asked you to sign. Not going to be an English major at LMU. And he said, why? You were so excited. And I told him, I said, that guy thinks I can't do it because of my disabilities. And Father Young was real quiet. And then he said in a way that only an old school Jesuit can, he said, well, son, I guess you're just going to have to prove that bastard wrong. And the next day, I enrolled in 4 English literature classes. And that guy who told me I shouldn't be in college, let's just say that he has an autographed copy of both of my books on his desk right now, right? We have a choice to enable or disable difference. Father Young, Mr. R, cursing Mickey Mouse, and so many others made that choice to see potential where other people saw problems. And that matters more than ever. And that matters to me and the 25% of the population with brains like me, of course, but it matters for all of us. Because the reality is the only normal people are people you don't know very well. Diversity is paradoxically the norm, and this work is about ensuring that each and every one of us have a right to be different. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful conference.